Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Unturned map review, we're going to be covering a map called Austria. Now, Austria did pretty well. It got a 78 out of 100, and it was a large map, so it's always impressive to see map makers finish those sizes of maps. So today we're going to be looking at what was good about the map, as well as what could have been improved about the map. One of the most impressive features of this map were the NPCs, as well as all of the custom objects, quests, dialogues, and vendors that went with them. You could tell that there's a ton of work put into developing a storyline using multiple quests that sort of overlap and interweave with each other, as well as other cool enhancements using in-game mechanics as well. So it was definitely super cool to see that, and if you play this map, definitely check out the NPCs and attempt to complete some of the quest lines, because they're definitely worth it and you do get quite a lot out of them. Another good thing about this map was the amount of vehicles and maintenance gear that goes with them. So a lot of maps have the issue where they've got too much space and too many locations, but not enough vehicles to travel around between them. But this map actually did a very good job of spreading out a decent amount of vehicles throughout the entire map. In terms of detailing for this map actually did pretty well. It did pretty much average, a little bit above average on the detailing, but it was very consistent throughout the entire map. And especially with large maps, it can be kind of hard to keep track of what you have detailed and what you haven't, and a lot of times we see areas that haven't been detailed at all, or areas that are almost completely copy-paste, and we saw virtually none of that in this map, so it was very good in terms of that aspect. In terms of the natural resources that were included in this map, there's actually a decent amount of normal stuff like animals, berries, and metal nodes, and some of the animals were used in some creative ways as well, which was good to see. Lastly, in terms of the positives, this map actually included quite a bit of high-tier content, including military zones, radiation zones, airdrops, and even a mega zombie. And one of the nice things about the mega zombie is the drops from them is very, very valuable. I can't really give away what it is, but in terms of how hard it is to kill, it actually is pretty worth compared to what you get out of it. Also, one last thing relating to the radiation zones, this map actually did have a good supply of radiation gear, which a lot of maps completely neglect. So it was very good to see that, and it was good that the map maker was mindful of the issue of if you have a radiation zone, you have to have the radiation gear to actually explore that thoroughly. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the positives of this map. Obviously, there's quite a bit that was good with it, and there's a few more things that we were not able to mention here, but let's move on to some of the issues of this map and some of the ways that it could have been improved. Alright, so one of the main issues, and probably the biggest issue with this map, had to do with the item spawns and how they were spread out throughout the map. So not only was there a lack of certain items such as food and clothing, but they were spread erratically throughout the map. For example, one of the main cities had quite a lot of the necessary resources, whereas some of the smaller cities and outpost locations didn't have any of certain types of resources. Some of the types of resources that were missing in general that you could have just seen more of were food and water. Actually, I ran into a bit of a weird issue. I was finding mostly water in certain areas, which was kind of weird, so you do need to have a balance. Also, clothing, there was a big lack of that in certain areas. And one last thing in terms of unbalancing, there's way too much glue in a certain location. It was kind of weird. It was almost like glue was replaced for the normal food spawns, because that's all I was finding at a few locations inside of a town. So maybe work on balancing the item spawns just a little bit more. Another thing relating to the item spawns and just not having enough of them was there definitely could have been more ranged weapon spawns throughout the map. And while we were exploring, even in the military bases, there was a huge lack of ammo and guns, so definitely include those as you're making your map as well. Another general issue with the map is the amount of locations spread out throughout the entire thing. Because it is a large map, and because of the lack of locations, there's actually quite a bit of traveling distance between every location, and of course that can be fixed with some few strategies here and there, but some of the areas of the map were completely barren and there just was nothing there. So definitely consider including more locations throughout the map, as well as just making some areas denser and making the areas in between a lot more interesting as well. And relating to that, the last issue we found was the landscape was kind of barren and boring, and most of the time you really only notice this when there's large distances to travel between locations. So it's kind of a compound issue. You need more locations, and what would have helped that is if the landscape in between those locations was a bit more interesting as well. So definitely in terms of the landscape, consider adding more landmarks, more interesting variety in terms of materials on the ground, shapes, hills, mountains, valleys, rivers, whatever you can add just to make it a bit more interesting. So that's pretty much it for the issues as well as the positives of this map. Obviously it did pretty well. 78 out of 100 is definitely a good score. Also, something to consider is that 4 of those points came from Easter eggs, and those are bonus points. So it is technically possible with our map review system to get 105% if you actually got everything else perfectly. Anyway, if you guys are of course interested in this map, there will be a link to it in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.